guys, welcome to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to make Keftedes Saganaki. It's Greek, it's not traditional, it's not a classic, but it's my version of a Greek style meatballs with a tomato sauce. Serve it with spaghetti, serve it with bread, serve it with a side of mashed potatoes. Any way you're going to serve it, this is delicious because the sauce is a tomato and feta sauce that's homemade and comes together in no time. We're going to begin with the tomato sauce ingredients and get that going, and then we're going to move on to the meatballs. So in the tomato sauce, we're going to begin with a small onion that I finely chopped with 3 whole cloves of garlic. You can chop them too, but they really melt with the onions once they begin to cook in the oil, and I'll add oil to that in a few seconds. Then we're going to have some oregano and crushed red pepper flakes, a little bit of sugar, lots of feta cheese. I cubed it and then I'm going to crumble it on top. We need some salt, pepper, and I have a small can of tomatoes in here. So if you have crushed tomatoes, go ahead and use those, but because I didn't have crushed tomatoes on hand, I had diced tomatoes, I'm just going to puree it in the blender. Now, I like my sauce to be really nice and smooth. If you like it more chunky and rustic, then you can go ahead and use the diced tomatoes as is. I'm going to put this over the stove top on high heat with about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And I'm going to cook it, and I'm also going to put a little bit of salt because salt kind of softens the onions too and helps them cook a little faster. Just a little bit, just a pinch. So I'm going to put it over high heat, then I'm going to reduce the heat to like a medium-low, and I'm going to allow the onion and the garlic with the oil to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until it's nice and golden and soft, and at that point I can start kind of smashing the garlic in. But in the meantime, I'm going to put that on there, and then we're going to get to making the keftedes, which are the meatballs. So for the meatballs, they're very easy to make. I've made the Keftedes recipe, which are meatballs, on this channel way back a few years ago when I first started making videos. We're going to use the same recipe pretty much, and let's go over the ingredients because they're so simple to make. We have a pound of lean ground beef. You can use ground chicken if you wanted to, or even lamb, or a combination of lamb and beef if that's what you really like. I have a whole garlic clove, an onion, some whole milk, red pepper flakes, salt, pepper, dried oregano, some breadcrumbs. I have panko, but you could use regular breadcrumbs if you wanted to. Some shredded Parmesan cheese, that's completely optional, and 1 whole egg. That's it. The only difference between this recipe and the older one is in the older one there's also a bell pepper, and that is delicious. I just didn't have one today, so I'm kind of skipping it. In my food processor, this is so easy to make in a food processor, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. I'm going to chop up my onion with my garlic. I'll get the garlic going first because big, huge chunks of garlic in meatballs is not really desirable. Let's put it in here and chop it up really, really nice and small. Just like that. And then we're going to chop up the onion. And while the onion is chopping up, I'm going to take out the parsley because that's a very important ingredient that you don't want to leave out. Fresh parsley. So I have curly parsley here, but you can use flat leaf parsley. If you're a fan of cilantro, go ahead and use that. Really, whatever fresh greens you want, you can put in here. You can put a little bit of rosemary, maybe about like a 1/4 teaspoon of that in here. Some mint. Mint is nice and fresh too. Dill is nice too. Whatever herbs you like, make sure you add them in there. But the parsley is just foolproof. It's going to taste delicious. Even though it's going in there, I'm just going to loosely chop it up just a little bit. Since my knife and my cutting board are out, I'm going to put it in here, and then I'm going to puree it until everything is really finely chopped. Then we're going to move on to the next step. So this is what you want it to look like. You want it to be really finely minced. And then this mixture is ready. Now we're just going to put everything in a big mixing bowl. I'm going to put my beef, my ground meat in here. Let's put this on the side. We're going to put our breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, about a teaspoon or so of dried oregano. I love it. A pinch of red pepper flakes. If you don't like them, you can leave them out. If you don't like any of these ingredients, you can leave them out. I know I get comments down below like, how dare you put this or that in here? That's not Greek. It doesn't have to be. If you like a certain spice that's not, very traditional, but it tastes good to you, that's the best part of cooking at home. Just go ahead and add it in there. And if you really don't like something that's part of a recipe, just leave it out. No big deal. Then we're gonna put some salt, about a teaspoon. And we're just gonna mix up this egg with the milk so that way it blends easily. Just like that. And in they go. And then last but not least, we're just gonna add all of these herbs and onion and garlic. Not all of them, there's just parsley in here. So we're adding the parsley, the onion and the garlic in here. And then I'm just gonna mix it all up until everything is all combined. And then we're gonna fry these. So we'll talk about that as soon as we get to that step. This recipe makes between 22 to 25 small meatballs, but I like to make this for, this is not an appetizer. I'm making this as a main course. I'm gonna make them a little bigger and we're gonna get at least 12 out of this. So you can portion the meat out if you wanted to be more precise beforehand, but basically you get like a golf ball size. Is that a golf ball size? Whatever that is. And you make a nice size meatball just like this, and you leave it on the plate, and you keep going until all your meat filling is ready. So this recipe made 17 pretty decent sized meatballs. I'm gonna heat up olive oil in a frying pan so that way I can fry these up. If you didn't want to fry them up, you can grill them on your grill or roast them in the oven. Personally, we prefer them fried in our house, but again, make them however you want. Let's head over to the stove so we can get these cooking. So once the onion and garlic gets nice and golden and soft, you want to go in there with a wooden spatula and just smash up the garlic, which should happen really effortlessly and easily. And then at this point, let's reduce the heat because we're going to have a lot of splatter once we add the tomato sauce. Let's add all of our canned tomatoes, oregano and red pepper flakes. I'll just add a half a teaspoon of sugar because it usually always needs it. Canned tomatoes are a little bit acidic. Somebody did give me an idea about cooking celery in here, and that kind of does what sugar does, but I haven't tried it yet. If you guys tried it, let me know. I'm gonna season this with salt and some black pepper, and then I'm gonna bring it to a boil over high heat. And once it boils, then I'm just gonna reduce it to a medium, and then I'm gonna let this cook for about 15 minutes until it thickens and everything comes together. In the meanwhile, we're gonna fry up our meatballs, and then we'll have a meal that close to being ready. So now we're gonna fry our meatballs. So you wanna make sure that the fire or the heat underneath the frying pan with the oil is on medium to medium high, not too high because we don't want them to burn. And you'll know it's ready when you put some wooden spoon or wooden skewer and then the bubbles start rising up, just like that. That's how you know it's done. If you don't have a skewer or anything like that, just put in a meatball, and if it starts to sizzle like that, you know it's ready. Don't overcrowd the pan, just put in as many as fit easily. So let's see how many fit in here. So we have about 6 in here. I'm not gonna put any more. They're gonna take about 5 to 6 minutes to cook. Now you don't have to cook them fully through because they are gonna continue to cook in the sauce. What you're looking for is for them to be golden brown all around, and I'll show you when they're ready what they're supposed to look like. So our keftedes are pretty much done frying. When they're nice and golden all around like that, they're ready. So while we're taking these out of the frying pan, out of the oil, you wanna put them in a plate that's lined with paper towels to absorb the excess oil. And then you can preheat your oven to the broil setting because the frying pan is going to go in there, and you'll see why. It's going to melt the feta cheese that we're going to add to the sauce, and it's just going to be perfection. And let me show you what the sauce looks like. It has reduced. Look at that. Now, you could also add double the amount of canned tomatoes to this, and I have done that many times to make sure that there's lots of sauce, plenty of sauce for the meatballs, because I do like plenty of sauce. I just made it like this for you so you can see kind of like the base recipe what's needed. But if you're gonna put another can in there, then you're gonna have to make this in a pot, just to keep that in mind. Let's put the meatballs in here. We're not putting them all because they don't all fit. We're just gonna put as many as we can. But if you are putting extra tomatoes in there, canned tomatoes, you don't have to increase anything else. You don't have to increase any more oregano or any more onion or any more garlic. The amount that's in here is enough for 1 can or for 2 cans. And the exact weight measurements are going to be in the recipe. I think that's good. Let's turn the heat on so we can just cook them through just a little bit. Then we're going to add the feta cheese. So at this point, you can crumble it in or you could leave the chunks in like that, whatever you prefer. And then this is going to go underneath the broiler. The The oven rack should be more towards the middle so it doesn't burn these. Let me turn the heat off because that's good enough. The sauce is thick enough. So we're going to put this under the broiler for about 3 to 5 minutes until the cheese sort of melts and chars and the sauce gets a little bit caramelized, and then it's going to be ready to serve. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so our Keftedes Saganaki are completely done. All they took is about 3 minutes under the broiler. Just be careful, keep an eye on them because some of them got a little bit darker than I wanted them to. They'll still be yummy and delicious. Just don't let them burn. Definitely don't want that to happen. Now you can garnish these with either some finely chopped scallions, finely chopped parsley, whatever you like. I really love the taste of scallions, so I'm just gonna drizzle them on top or drop them on top like that and let them sort of from the heat, let them release their flavor onto there. These keftedes are so moist and so delicious, and that comes from the breadcrumbs and the milk and the egg in there. It does make all the difference. In Greece, sometimes they tend to go a little heavier on the breadcrumbs. It tastes good. They're super moist. That's what keeps them really nice and soft, but they do tend to taste more like bread than beef or meat, and I like to taste them like a meat after all. I like them to taste like meat, not like a meat, after all, because they are a meatball. I'm going to taste the meatball because it's so yummy. It smells so good. They're perfect. I can taste the herbs in there. They're very flavorful, very moist, and just perfect. I forgot to mention that you should have tasted the salt and the seasoning in the sauce before it went in under the broiler. Make sure you do that just to make sure that everything is perfectly seasoned. I'm going to serve mine with this beautiful rosemary bread that I made earlier today. If you don't have the recipe, make sure you check it out. It's already going to be up right before this recipe. Very easy to make. You can serve it with pasta, some mashed potatoes, a nice salad, whatever suits your fancy, whatever floats your boat. Just make it. Like I said before when I was making the sauce, I do like to serve it with a little more sauce than I did in this frying pan right here. It just would have overflowed and kind of made a mess. If you are making a double batch of the sauce, keep the onion amount the same, the garlic the same. Just put a double batch of the canned tomatoes in there, and it'll make a really nice, beautiful sauce, so that way you can have for dipping and eating this meal all together. But just put it in a bigger pot. You don't want to put it in a pan this size. I'm going to serve it to myself on here. The feta melted and just smells beautiful. Let me take some bread. Let's see what this is made of. See if it tastes good. Let's see if it's worth all the hype. It sure is. I don't like to toot my own horn, but you guys have to trust me that this is so good. You're definitely going to want to make it. It's on the website as well as in the description box. So the website is www.dimitrasdishes.com. The description box is underneath this video. I keep getting comments when people are telling me that they can't find the recipe. Right underneath this video, there's something called a description box, and the recipe is in there as well as a link. If you haven't already bought my cookbook, go ahead and get it. It's a brunch book. Comment down below what you want to learn how to make next. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.